In the early 11th century, a new religious doctrine emerged under the Fatimid Caliph al-Hakim Bey Amrullah in Cairo. Al-Hakim, regarded by his followers as a divine incarnation, inspired a circle of Ismaili preachers led by Hamza ibn Ali. Together they launched a new faith named as Druze, with al-Hakim at its center. This faith preached strict monotheism, but with a twist. It taught that God had incarnated on earth in the form of al-Hakim. Over the next few years, the Druze developed a formal creed of esoteric hikmah, wisdom, but met fierce opposition. By 1021, al-Hakim mysteriously disappeared, likely murdered, and amid intense persecution the Druze retreated from Cairo. In 1043 their elders decreed the closure of the Dawah, a permanent end to proselytizing and conversion. From that point on, the Druze community became entirely hereditary and secretive. They forbade marriage outside the faith and even built a wall of silence around their scriptures. Non-initiates never see the hidden Rasai al-Hikmah. As scholars note, since 1043, the Druze community has been closed to outsiders, and converts have not been permitted. Indeed, a core Druze principle is taqiyya, concealing one's beliefs under threat, a tactic justified by early Druze leaders to survive in hostile lands. The Druze faith emerged as an offshoot of Ismaili Shi'ism but quickly set itself apart. It is syncretic and highly esoteric. The Druze believe in one God, Tawheed, but teach that God once manifested in human form, al-Hakim. They venerate a series of hidden prophets and philosophers, including figures like Moses, Jesus, and even Plato, but reject ordinary Islamic law and overt ritual. Religious observance is private, there are no public mosques or call to prayer, and many rituals occur only in the secret councils of the initiated Uqqal. Even to this day the Druze ban conversion. They follow a monotheistic, Abrahamic, syncretic faith that is famously secretive, rejects would-be converts and discourages marriage outside the faith. This insularity, reinforced over a millennium, has preserved the community but obscured it from outsiders. For example, a Pew survey notes that, since its founding in the 11th century, the Druze tradition has been officially closed off to outsiders and proselytism has been prohibited. After their secretive creed formed, the early Druze dispersed from Egypt to the Levantine highlands. Fleeing reprisals, they established enclaves in remote regions of Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and later Jordan. As an Arab Ismaili historian observes, the Druze sect was born near Cairo. For 6 years following their leader's disappearance, they hid. They slowly re-entered public life, but most began emigrating to remote mountainous regions in Lebanon, Syria, and what became Israel, where they hoped they could practice their faith without persecution. Over centuries these mountain sanctuaries became the core of Druze civilization. In southern Lebanon, the Chof and Wadi al-Taim, western Syria, Jabal al-Druze around Suwaida, and northern Palestine, Mount Carmel in the Galilee, Druze hamlets thrived. Even as borders changed, the Druze clung to their villages. Today, roughly 1 million to 1.5 million Druze live worldwide. By one count, about 390,000 are in Lebanon, 420,000 in Syria, 152,000 in Israel, including the Golan, 15,000 in Jordan, with tens of thousands more in the diaspora. The largest concentrations remain in the ancestral mountain homes. South Lebanon and Wadi al-Taim are the principal concentrations, and the oldest, the Druze having lived there since the first years of the Dawah. Southern Lebanon's Chof and Wadi al-Taim harbor the oldest and densest Druze communities. From these cradle lands, thousands of Druze eventually emigrated abroad to North America, Australia and West Africa, but most kept ties to the Levant. Over the Middle Ages, the Druze managed a tense coexistence with neighboring powers. Under the Ottomans, 16th to 19th centuries, Druze chieftains in Mount Lebanon enjoyed a measure of self-rule, forming a power-sharing balance with Maronite emirs and other groups. They often intermarried within the community and fought occasional local feuds, but Ottoman policy generally left them a large degree of autonomy in the rugged mountains. With World War I the map was redrawn. Defeat of the Ottomans led to French and British mandates. The Druze found themselves split. The French carved out Syria and Lebanon, the British took Palestine and Transjordan. In Syria, 1921 to 1946, the French initially encouraged Druze autonomy. They even established a short-lived state of Suwaida, later called Jabal al-Druze, in the predominantly Druze south. In 1922, this autonomous zone 50 by 100 kilometers had roughly 43,000 Druze, over 84% of its population, alongside a few thousand Christians and Muslims. This special status ended by 1936 when French negotiated Syrian unity. Sultan Pasha al-Atrash, the famed Druze leader, led the successful Syrian revolt against colonial rule. In Lebanon, which gained independence in 1943, the Druze entered the national political system as one of many sects, wielding influence, the Jumblat family among them. They were granted the right to handle their own family law under French oversight, and remained a key player in Lebanon's complex confessional system. Across the border in mandatory Palestine, the fate of the Druze was somewhat different. The British Mandate, 1918 to 1948, covered Galilee villages like Daliyat al-Kamal and Julis. Unlike many Palestinian Arabs, these Druze villages largely stayed intact through the 1948 war. When Israel declared independence, most of the local Druze population became Israeli citizens rather than refugees. The Israeli government decided to treat them differently from other Arab minorities. From 1956 onward, all Israeli Druze men became subject to full military conscription. By contrast, Muslim and Christian Arabs were exempt. This policy created a unique bond. The Druze Herev, Sword, Battalion and all Druze infantry units served from 1948 until 2015. In the words of an Israeli scholar, Israel imposed mandatory military service on the Druze. It exempted Muslim and Christian minorities. By mid-20th century, the Druze had thus endured and adapted through empire, mandate and new states. They held the line in Lebanon's mountains, in Syria's Jabal, and even a niche in the nascent state of Israel. Yet their loyalty was always conditional. It was balanced by decades of political maneuvering. For example, some Syrian Druze briefly supported Bashar al-Assad in the 1980s, others joined revolts. In Lebanon, they switched alliances in the 1975 to 1990 civil war. Throughout, however, an unbroken thread held, a cautious pact that preserved Druze autonomy and identity even as regimes changed. Today, Israel's Druze number about 150,000 to 160,000, roughly 1.6% of the population. They live almost exclusively in the Galilee, on Mount Carmel, and in the Golan Heights annexed in 1981. Israeli Druze families are close-knit. 90% express a strong pride in being Druze, and fewer than 1% intermarry outside the faith. Yet they have also become deeply embedded in Israeli civic life. Uniquely among Arab citizens, Druze men complete 3 years of mandatory military service. In fact, for more than 4 decades, the Israeli military had a primarily Druze infantry unit, Herev, and about 6 in 10 Druze men have served or now serve in the IDF. Many Israeli Druze take army careers. As one report notes, they not only serve the compulsory term but often choose to be career combat officers, earning a reputation as loyal reservists. In public offices and politics, the Druze are also present. They send MPs to the Knesset and have held cabinet roles. A Druze woman in northern Israel prepares pita at home. Most Israeli Druze live in rural Galilee or Golan villages but work in diverse fields. Despite maintaining traditional customs, many Druze civilians and their children also bear the Herev, the sword of military service. With this high level of integration, Israeli Druze often feel patriotic. Surveys find that a majority identify strongly as Israeli in addition to being Druze. Over 60% say they feel very much Israeli, and nearly all 93% report pride in their Druze heritage. As one academic summarized, they have been model citizens, serving the nation, studying the Hebrew curriculum in school, and maintaining good relations with Jewish neighbors. Yet this integration has come with tensions. Many Druze bristle at laws and policies that single them out as second class. A flashpoint was Israel's 2018 nation-state law, which enshrined the country's identity as the nation-state of the Jewish people, and effectively downgraded non-Jewish minorities. This law deeply alarmed the Druze. Thousands marched in protest, holding signs that decried it as a betrayal of their loyalty. As the Druze spiritual leader Muwaffaq Tarif famously put it at a 2018 rally, "Despite our unlimited loyalty to the state doesn't consider us equals." Israeli leaders in turn have occasionally acknowledged the dilemma. In 2022, after the state posthumously honored a Druze commando killed in Gaza, even nationalist politicians admitted the nation-state law sent the wrong message to Druze veterans. Other issues worry Israeli Druze too. Housing and land rights are perennial grievances. Critics note that Druze villages often face building permit refusals while Jewish towns expand nearby. Recent years have seen legislative initiatives targeting Druze civil rights, for example, proposals for loyalty oath laws or the exclusion of Druze from certain benefits that fuel fears of discrimination. Indeed, one analysis describes Druze citizens' sense of existential insecurity, rooted in discriminatory policies imposed since the state was founded in 1948. The community's identity is further tested by regional turmoil. Israeli Druze share ethno-religious ties with Syrian and Lebanese cousins. In May 2025, horrific sectarian violence in Syria's Druze heartland, Havran, Sweda, sent shockwaves through Galilee villages. Thousands of Israeli Druze blocked roads and demanded that the IDF intervene to protect Druze in Syria. Prime Minister Netanyahu did order strikes in Syria, citing a commitment to our Druze brothers, but many Druze see the episode as emblematic. Despite their service, they must continually assert their place. In the end, the Israeli Druze walk a fine line. They remain fiercely proud of their ancient Tawhid faith and communal bonds, while also striving to belong in a modern Jewish state. Their story today is one of service and sacrifice, manning army posts far from home, yet practicing traditions at home. Fitting into society, as one commentator notes, may have posed more challenges for Druze living in Israel, but they continue to honor both their identity and their oaths. Even as they debate their future caught between patriotism and the memory of lost kin across the border, the Druze community endures, keeping alive a secret faith born a millennium ago.